That would be
Yeah, it's tough.
Good evening, we'll go ahead and start. I apologize for being a couple minutes late there. It's I know about 6:02. First item, consider approving the minutes held from the August 12th.
I make a motion we approve those minutes and sign the warrant.
Motion made, second by all. The vote on. Thank you. Next thing is junkyard approval.
I've got Code Enforcement Officer Dave Savage here to take care of that.
Letters went out, it's pretty much business as usual compared to last year. Letters went out to the abutters, no complaints, no problems. I visited all the junkyards. Like I said, it seems like recycling's down right now, so they're not real active. I see no reason not to approve it. There are 5 listed there, 6 listed there.
I make a motion to approve those 6 junkyard permits.
Second by Don. All in favor? Thank you.
Dave, you know, shut this thing off.
Just turn it down, Brian.
All right. Oh, there it is. Thank you. Looking for a button.
Okay, next thing on the agenda is downtown TIF presentation.
We're actually going to go and move the 911 address request in front of that if we could.
Sure.
Which will be number 4, and Dave's here to handle that as well.
Dave, you want to do number 4, the 911 request?
Sure, up on Liberty Hill Road, if anyone's got that.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you.
You'll see some development about halfway up the hill on the right. They lost some land down the back along the lake. There's one house currently being built, and the plan is for one more in the spring, so there'll be 2 houses down there. 911 requires the naming of a driveway if there's more than one house. The current people building and the future builders come up with the 3 names listed on the paperwork I gave to you guys. In the order they preferred. I sent it out to the police chief and the fire chief. The police chief had no issues. The fire chief, he concerned about pronunciation on number 1 and number 3 of the request. Other than that, we're here to see if the council wants to pick one of them 3 names for the name of this private driveway.
Did they have a preference, Dave?
Yes, preference is number 1.
How's it pronounced?
Councilman Brodo will tell us. I do believe it's Loja Home Place is what number 1 is. Number 2 is Our Place, and number 3 is Halcyon Place.
Our place is very easy to pronounce.
And that was a comment the fire chief made.
Don?
Who came up with the 3?
The people that own the property, the one that's building, and the people that are building in the spring. What they mean,
So, 2 people came up with 3 names?
yes.
The only concern I have for our place is on a dispatch, where would he go? Our place.
Right.
Is that going to be, where's our place? I know they probably know in the dispatches, but it doesn't really sound like a road name.
Like I said, the people building down there preferred one, and like I said, the only comments was from the fire chief on just pronunciation. Is it something we're gonna learn like any other different name? I don't know. So I guess it's up to the board.
2 or 3 works for me.
Number
2 or 3. Halcyon or our.
I like Halcyon simply because
There's 2 of you.
it sounds like a street.
What is it, the 3rd one?
Halcyon.
3rd one?
Means our place.
We can give them a choice, I mean, the 2 or 3, can we?
Halcyon.
We've done that before.
Yeah.
Have them get back to us?
Why don't we give them the choice of number 2 or number 3 and let them choose?
I'll make that motion.
Motion's made. Do we have a second on giving them the choice of number 2 or 3? Seconded by Dave. All in favor?
Yeah.
You'll get back to us?
Yes.
That's what happened. We'll get back to the...
Thank you.
Now you'd like to go to the young lady in the corner?
I'd like to introduce Shauna Cook-Mueller. Most of you, I believe, know her. She works for Bernstein Shirt out of Portland, and she's worked with us before on tips. And she's well respected and highly regarded around the state of Maine, and so it's an honor to have her come up here and do a presentation for us. Shauna, I'm going to give you the floor. I'm going to run the program here for you, and
Okay. Well, great. Well, so nice to be back here. That was a really generous introduction, Gary. So I think folks heard, my name is Shauna Mueller. Don't remember when I've been here in the past, and you know, it's kind of you to say the young lady in the corner, because I've now been doing this a long time. So it's almost 15 years I've been practicing tax increment financing and helping municipalities with these programs. So, so yeah, I've seen pretty much all of it that you could find. So, and the program has changed in that time quite a bit. So I think the point tonight was just for me to be able to do a little bit of a refresher in general about what tax increment financing is, what the opportunities are for towns like Oakland, and also just to give you some background information on a particular type of district, which is called a downtown TIF, and just give you some information so that you can then think about whether or not you want to pursue any new TIF districts here. And just so you all know, it's not my job to tell you you should or you shouldn't do this. It's my job to make sure you understand the opportunity that it presents and for you all to make the best decision for your community. So to start off by saying that. And I'm also happy, however, you know, you choose. I can take questions during the presentation or afterwards, whatever you would like. So I'm going to start real general, and I know some of you are going to know a lot of this basic piece, the basic pieces, but what is a TIF district? I like to think about it as you put your arms around an area in the community and you freeze the assessed value in that district, in that area. And all of the taxes paid on the increase in assessed value from that point forward go into what's called a TIF fund as opposed to your community's general fund. And that TIF fund has some restrictions on it in terms of how you can use those revenues. And the TIF statute lays out what those are, but they have to relate to what the statute deems to be economic development purposes. It's pretty broad, not broad enough according to some, but we'll get into some of that as well. And the original assessed value is a term you'll hear. That's that frozen value. So I said you freeze the assessed value in that district. All the taxes that are paid on that existing assessed value, called the original assessed value, continue to get paid to the general fund. So it's only that incremental value that's added on top that is part of the captured TIF revenue. The district also will have a development program that's required to go with it that it spells out all the features of the program. And then, as some of you may know, the Department of Economic and Community Development at the state is the state department that reviews applications for statutory compliance, and so I work with them very, very closely. And then there's a sister program for affordable housing TIF districts. Those types of TIF districts are reviewed by the Maine State Housing Authority. So I can certainly get into those a little bit if you would like. So some people are more visual learners, and so I put this type of graphic up to show a TIF district term. This term of years in this graphic shows the base value of the project being $1 million. That's also the original assessed value for this district. So the taxes paid on that $1 million continues to go to the general fund throughout the term of the TIF district. And then you put in place a TIF district for 30 years. This shows a $5 million new improvement in the district coming in, and the taxes paid on that $5 million incremental value go into the TIF fund. At the end of the district, you've got $6 million of assessed value in that property. Very simplified illustration, but any questions so far? Nope. Okay. All right. So the statute has some parameters we have to abide by. There are statutory acreage limits on any single TIF district. You can't have a single TIF district be more than 2% of the total acreage in a town. And then all your TIF districts combined can't be more than 5% of your total acreage in your town. There are exceptions, so downtown TIF districts are exempt from those caps. So that's something to keep in mind. I think that the theory there is that if you're creating a downtown district, that might be a pretty big area, depending on your community. It's not going to be just one parcel, and so they wanted to give a little more flexibility there. The other bullet on this slide is project costs. And so I said before that that TIF fund can only be used on certain purposes. The TIF statute lays out what they call project costs, and those are the things that you could use TIF revenues for. And I think about them in 3 different categories because the statute breaks them up that way. The first category are things that are located inside the TIF district that you create. And so this would be any buildings that have to get built within the TIF district, capital improvements like that. And generally those are just easier to get approved by the state. If they're in the district, you're going to probably have legal authority to undertake them. The second category are improvements that are outside of the TIF district, but that are made necessary by or are directly related to the development in the district. So this would be, you know, you're drawing a district around a particular development that's coming in, and because of that new development, you need to improve a road that leads to that development. And so that road improvement could qualify in this category. So as you can see, we would need to, in that case, explain to DECD, who's going to approve this, the connection there and make sure that they agree that there's a significant relationship. Then there's a third category of project costs, and I won't list them all because there's quite a few, but these are areas that don't have to relate at all to your TIF district, but that the legislature has deemed to be economic development for your municipality. So a couple of examples are environmental improvements that are related to economic development. So some communities have an urban impaired stream or some other impacts of some prior development that need to be addressed environmentally in order for some future development to occur. Those kinds of improvements, no matter where they are in the district, can be paid for with TIF revenues. Other things are job training and other kind of just general expenses that the community has for economic development programs. We could talk more about what those are if folks have questions. And I may have shared this before, but in my office we keep this running list of project cost lists from other approved districts, so that if you're trying to kind of think about what might qualify, and a lot of municipalities will use that list as a kind of brainstorming, to provoke some brainstorming for your community. I mean, they don't always match up perfectly because some of the particular situations in Oakland might not apply somewhere else, and so, you know, we'd have to go through an analysis, but that might be something, if you're interested in, I can certainly share. And the other thing that's worth me pointing out probably is you want to also make sure that, to the extent, if you're creating a new TIF district, you want to think about the things that you're already spending general fund dollars on that might qualify as economic development. And I'll talk about the tax shift benefit in a minute, but there's a financial incentive to use TIF revenues to pay for something that you would otherwise pay for out of your general fund. So we can get to that too. This slide just talks about some of the benefits that folks feel TIFs bring or could potentially bring depending on the situation. So the first one is, you know, if you've got some planning documents or economic development goals, some of these kinds of programs can be put in place to help you reach those goals. TIF districts can be used to attract new investment and jobs and improve the local economy. That can be done directly or indirectly. I don't think Oakland has one of these, but TIF districts can include a credit enhancement agreement or credit enhancement agreements.
That was part of the reason.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So and a lot of downtown TIF districts are created in this way, and I'll get to to talking a little bit about some examples here too. But you can create a area-wide district, whether it's a downtown district or something else, where you have the authority later to authorize credit enhancement agreements with individual developers who need some assistance to make the financials of their project work. And so that's an agreement whereby some portion of TIF revenues is paid to a developer over time as an incentive for them to do their development. And there's a very wide range of feelings about credit enhancement agreements across the state. And I would just offer that it's really important if you have a proposal from a private party asking for a credit enhancement agreement, that there's a real thorough process in vetting of that application and making sure that it really is the right choice for the town. But it's very widely used. I actually say this a little later in the presentation, but there are roughly half of the TIF districts across the state have an associated credit enhancement agreement. So it's definitely a very popular feature for attracting investment. The third bullet there is accomplishing significant infrastructure projects, and I think the town of Oakland is an example of that too. Whether it's water or sewer or a building that is necessary to support the town's
Fiber optics
development.
would qualify for that as well if we wanted to bring broadband downtown Oakland. I mean, that's something that we could utilize.
Yes, so broadband, and I'll talk about the statute recently changed about broadband to, there has always been sort of this restriction on infrastructure projects to the extent they're serving residential areas and business districts within a community. And so there was this proration of costs. And so there was a compromise struck to expand the ability of towns to use TIF revenues on broadband to the extent that it's serving an, quote, underserved, or it may be the word is unserved by Connect Main Authority definitions. So I don't know if Oakland would qualify in some respects for that, but to the extent the broadband is in a business district, that would certainly qualify.